Like my very first one, I was around 5 years old on Easter Sunday, and this like hologram of Jesus shows up in my bedroom, and I was like, "Who's that dude?" I was just, I can the feeling of it was like overwhelming, and I felt like, oh my God, I'm gonna cry. Like this just, I felt like every cell in my body was being flooded with love. And I literally didn't even know who the dude was. And there wasn't a lot spoken. And then later on, when I saw this statue of like a head up of the same dude, kind of looked like him, and on a teacher's desk. And I was like, who's that guy? And they're like, oh, that's Jesus. And I'm like, oh, that's the dude.
Much love and peace to all watching and or listening to Candid Stories of My Soul podcast with myself as the host, Racquel Shelby. From the moment we take our first breath and every experience that follows builds us up and creates the individuals we are today. In life, we will experience both the good and the bad because in order for balance to exist, both must coexist. There cannot be good without bad, nor can there be chaos without peace. We are souls experiencing humanity. The Creator is the author of it all. Whether we believe in a God source or not, He is within us all and is present at all times, embedded in us like our DNA. You will get to audibly witness many journeys of individuals as they are living, breathing, and ever-growing documentaries in the flesh. Many will attest to how the Creator was there, and many of these accounts will be mind-blowing. Please share with your family and friends and enjoy the message we have for you today. Thank you for tuning in to Candid Stories of My Soul podcast with your host, Racquel. We have an amazing guest here today, Dr. Sharnael. Dr. Sharnael Wolverton Sehon is a captivating, multidisciplinary expert who seamlessly blends naturopathic medicine, spirituality, and quantum science to empower individuals on their journey to wholeness. As the founder of Dr. Sharnael's TrueTv and author of 5 groundbreaking books, including The Science of Miracles, Remembering the Frequency of Love, Dr. Sharnael offers a unique perspective on achieving optimal health and unlocking human potential. Her global influence spans over 51 countries, where she shares her transformative insights through speaking engagements, online classes, and social media platforms. She also has over 15,000 clients online, remote with her technology with long distance biofeedback. We're going to get deep into this, so stay tuned and we'll be right back. Truth and Justice Tarot is a Patreon exclusive where I help solve murder and missing person mysteries. Please help me and send in your requests by clicking Send Your Suggestions located under the Contact tab on my website at rockyroadtv.com. Watch the series for free by joining my Patreon. Hey friend, you can now join my Patreon for free. The link is provided below. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for allowing me to interview you. You
Hi.
have one. Hi. I'm excited.
Me too. Me too. Looks like we got matching nails too. What the heck? I just did
Right.
today. I know
Awesome. That is
the
awesome.
color, but I just picked it and I'm like, what? We did it the same.
I know it's pretty. It's so pretty. I like it. I do. So you also have one heck of a resume. So
You too, girl. You busy.
yeah, I'm a little busy. I'm getting there. I'm trying to be like you. So
Hey, it's teamwork. We all work together, right?
that is true. It really is. That is true. How did you get here? How did you get on this path? Like, what happened?
Yeah, it's a lot, just like everybody in life, I think that there's been multiple intersections that kind of made it to this space, and I don't know how long I'll be here, but yeah, I mean, kind of a mix of, I was in like a more of a religious, organized kind of path for a while. I went to Bible school, seminary. Although I was not raised in any kind of Christianity or spiritual path or anything like that. Moving to the South, my dad was military. So when we moved to the South, like that kind of seems to be the vibe here is, and that's where I am right now. Um, it's a little bit more of a religious kind of deal. And not as bad now, I think, as it was even like 20 years ago when I got here, or 30 years ago now. But I think there's been a lot of evolution, not just with me, but with just, people and mindsets and that kind of thing. But at the time, I kind of jumped in when I was just meeting friends and I was a teenager, and it was like that's how you made friends, is like going to church and meeting up with people and doing things because that's what everybody else was doing. But yeah, I was kind of obsessed with like anything spiritual, mostly like the supernatural, the paranormal. What really intrigued me was like, how do miracles happen? Like, that's what I wanted to know is like, I just got my first Bible at 13 and I'm reading all this stuff and I'm like, wow, there's bilocation here. There's like people, go not even dying, just Enoch was gone and Moses was just gone. And, it was like, what is going on? Like, and why aren't all these people doing this? Like instant healings and, turning water into wine. And it's like, dude, like this should be normal, right? And so I kind of was just on this path of thinking, how can I be more spiritual? So that's a part of my everyday deal. And going into really learning intuition and, dreams and visions. And, I kind of went on this path where I was like, okay, I'm going to fast. I'm going to, do breathing stuff. I'm going to meditate, whatever it takes. And then sort of some of it was crossing over into like areas where my religion at the time was like, oh no, that's too much, And I was just like, is it? Because it's in the Bible, And I I still have a Bible and I get the romance of that. And, I think there's a lot of truth in it. I do think it was changed and remade and maybe even complicated a little bit because of what the systems were at the time and or even now, like the whole gender thing and, women are this and no dancing. And it's like, I don't know, and so I just started questioning things, and I did actually speak as a conference speaker and author for 20 some years and was on 6 planes a week traveling to go speak at these conferences, mostly teaching on the supernatural, on, how to hear the voice of God or that inner voice, how to follow your intuition, miracles. I was really super excited about anything having to do with like just the extraordinary and was teaching people, like to open your mind for that. But in the process, got actually sick. And I was probably sick maybe the last 6 or 7 years of that part of my life. And so and simultaneously was trying to see doctors to find out like why I was not feeling well. And ended up getting on a bunch of different meds that had side effects and then got on more meds and more side effects. And I was like, dude, I believe in healing and I've seen people get healed like instantaneously. So like, why couldn't I have that? Like, what was the missing link here? And ended up, I was teaching a dreams and visions course in another state. And the lady who was hosting me saw that I had this like suitcase of all my meds and like, take this in the morning and this at night and this with food and this not with food and, that kind of stuff. And was really exhausting. And I really wasn't feeling better, So it's like, well, what am I doing this for? Ended up making me like super overweight. And just when you don't feel good, you don't work out, you don't do things. I was eating terrible because I was on the road all the time. And I think airports and gas stations and places like that have a little bit more choices now than they did 30 years ago, but at the time it was pretty much junk food, Coca-Cola, whatever. And so that ended up being kind of what my diet was, and that's terrible. But but yeah, this lady who was hosting me for this dreams course that I was teaching, she's like, you should go see this guy, and it was another doctor, and I was like, dude, I'm good. Like I was kind of over the whole Western medicine thing, wasn't getting answers. I was exhausted, just going in to get refills all the time, and just the mess of, oh, we got to refer you to this guy and that guy and insurance, and just such a mess. And she just kept pushing like, hey, check this guy out. Like he's different, and I'm like, yeah, I heard that before. I'm cool, that's okay. But the more she kept talking to me, I was like, you know what, whatever. And I was kind of at the point too where I was like, if you told me to put ketchup on my face and it was going to heal me, I probably would have done it because I was just so over being sick. And I did go see this dude, and it ended up changing everything. Like he's an MD, but he does a lot of electronical kind of biohacking stuff. And this is like, God, this is 2009 or 8, around there. So there wasn't a whole lot, or at least I wasn't exposed to a lot of biohacking things at the time, and I'd never heard the term naturopathic. That was completely new to me. But he had all these crazy machines, like lasers and biofeedback and PEMF and red light therapy and ozone therapy and infrared sauna, and I mean all those things. And it just helped a lot. And he introduced me to essential oils, which at the time I was like, yeah, really, I'm going to smell something and that's going to change my life. you know um I just thought that oils were kind of like a thing to make you not stink, or something that was like pretty or spa-like. But I didn't know that they had like neuroscience capacity and antibacterial and anti-pain and help with sugar levels and like actual physical, if it's a real oil, it actually does have a lot of things that can help. And then the frequency of it, like if it's a real oil, there's frequency. And I had been studying neuroscience and frequency because that went along with my whole miracle path. And I was like, wait, we're energetic. This stuff is frequency. Wow, okay. And then I actually started having dreams about being a naturopath. And I was like, man, going back to school. I was 38, divorced, 3 kids. I'm like, this kind of looks weird, just to change my whole path right now. And how would I even do that? And I was literally on the tarmac of a plane, and I just kind of like said out loud, okay, God, do you really want me to go back to school and be an ND? And then literally I look out the window, and there's those like cones and stuff, on the tarmac, and there was like a yellow like stand thing, and it said ND that away, and it was going in the direction that I was going. And I was like, okay. So all these, like, I love signs and synchronicities, and I think when we're in the right vibe, like everything just comes to us. And I was in school. I was set up to go back to school that following Monday. And because of that step, like now I've been introduced to more and more and more. I started teaching more on that. And I did open a practice in July, so I have a small practice here, but most of my people are online because I didn't have a physical place where people could come to for years. But as I was teaching at these conferences, I would go to like a 500-person conference or a 40,000-person conference, and I was teaching on this kind of stuff, on frequency and light and the power of all this. And then I would go home, and back then it was answering machines, like an actual like landline, and my machine would be like loaded, and people would be like, well, my sister has this and my dad has that, and can you help me figure out, blah blah blah. And I was like, dude. So I ended up having to set consultations over the phone, and it kind of turned into like this remote thing where I was helping people long distance. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. I still do long distance. I do have biofeedback so I can help people and do diagnostics and also send frequencies to people, even if you're on Australia or Michigan or wherever you are. But I do have people that come see me in real life too. And I just continue to write. I love doing anything on social media to kind of help and teach. And I love teaching like online classes and different things just to help people who can't come in real life to my meetings or whatever, that they could just kind of learn and get educated wherever they are. So that's kind of where I am.
Wow, that's amazing. So it's like it kind of took a life on its own. You took a step, and then more things kept presenting itself, and like little breadcrumbs, little signs, like go
That's
here type of thing.
exactly. Yes, I always
Wow.
say that, the breadcrumb thing. Yes, you get the whole Hansel and Gretel thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That is deep. So when it comes to like paranormal phenomena and spiritual encounters, what has your experience been with that?
Yeah, that
What?
was a big part of my transition and my entire path. I've had like weird stuff, like like my very first one, I was around 5 years old on Easter Sunday, and this like hologram of Jesus shows up in my bedroom, and I was like, "Who's that dude?" I was just I can the feeling of it was like overwhelming, and I felt like, oh my God, I'm gonna cry, like this just I felt like every cell in my body was being flooded with love. And I literally didn't even know who the dude was. And there wasn't a lot spoken. And then later on, when I saw this statue of like a head up of the same dude, kind of looked like him, and on a teacher's desk. And I was like, who's that guy? And they're like, oh, that's Jesus. And I'm like, oh, that's the dude. So that kind of happened. And then when I was in this shift of like figuring things out, of transitioning from like literal full-time ministry to a different type of ministry, like where it wasn't just church doors and church buildings and retreats. It was more like the whole freaking world. It was scary to me because of all the programming and because there was a lot of hate, a little literally, like the church was like, oh no, you can't do that. Like that's secular, and just there's a lot of mindsets that were kind of weird. And I had to get over my own way of, because I was like, oh, well, what if they don't like me, and what if I'm doing the wrong thing, and just being okay with following that intuition no matter what anyone thought, and having the courage to just go like, this is the way for me, and if you don't like it, it's fine, and being okay that people don't like what I'm doing. And so it took a bit, but I had this encounter around that time, 2008, 9, where I came out of my bedroom and I like walked into, oh, I'm gonna get emotional. Walked into my living room, and there was these two ginormous like beings of light in the living room, and there were these stacks of books. Golly, I'm starting to cry again. So stacks of books everywhere, and I was just like, is this a dream? Is this like, what is happening? Like, I was terrified, but also like so curious and just like literally confused. I was just like, what's going on? And I remember I heard, like, don't be afraid. And I was like, thinking, oh my God, they can like read my thoughts, and I was one of them came, and like one looked kind of like a female, and the other looked kind of male. And the girl like walked around, I say girl, whatever, she looked like a girl, like a big ginormous woman, I should say. She came around, and like she's sitting at this like ancient desk, and there's like again piles of books everywhere, and I'm just like and I'm like, she opens the book, and so I walk around, and I'm like trying to peer over to see like what is in this book. And it was like records and records and records and records of like this person's name, what they were healed of, or what they were sick of, what they were healed of, when they were healed, how they were healed, next person, next person, next person. And I was like, and I remember I heard, without her talking, I heard, what do you want? And I was like, I want to be a part of that. And I remember like she looked over at the other guy, and the guy was kind of like, and then she was like, and then she like, well, before she slams the book, she like points at me, really like intimidating. And she gets really serious, and she says, tell them they're not truly living unless they're living true. And then she slams the book. And I was like, and as soon as she slams the book, everything is gone. She's gone. The books are gone. The desk's gone. I'm standing there shaking. I am literally trembling inside out. And tears are coming down. And I'm just like, what was that? Like, who was that? Like, what the heck? Did I make that up? Am I crazy? Like, was that a dream? Am I sleepwalking? Like, I still don't know, And all I know is there was other things that were said and heard in my mind. And to when I had thought, like, who are you? Like, she had told me true, and he had said living. And I was like, okay. And, you know, th I knew true to me, man, I'm getting emotional.
Take it.
I knew when she said what she said about living true that she wasn't just talking about like telling fibs or like little white lies kind of deal. Like I knew that she meant like the way you live your life, the way you think, the way you eat, the way you drink, like everything you do, moment to second like every bit was either truth or not. And whatever that truth is has to do with you and me and everyone. And my truth may not be yours, and yours, someone else's might not be someone else's, but we all have this like diverse path. And there is a higher way and a less than higher way. And I was obsessed with like figuring that out now, and I had like all these downloads that came after that. And I remember going to get a book, and I was just like writing everything down as much as I could possibly like remember, because I was so scared it was just going to go away, and then I would forget. And so I'm just like writing down these equations and pictures and everything that I could possibly remember. And I started really seeing like how to create and lower frequencies and how that affects our biofield, and how the biofield magnifies it out, and also, I mean, magnifies us in, but also radiates out, and how we're constantly in this torrid of radiating and magnifying and magnetizing, and just this whole, and how the earth has one too, and how plants and animals, and we all have this, you know, and how this intersects with miracles, because we can either create something really cool and have synchronicities all day long, or we can live in those lower frequencies where we're just default creating, where it's just like a program, and we're not paying attention, we're not conscious, we're not aware, we're just like going with it. And we're like, oh, everything happens to me, versus realizing, no, this is a creation. Like we are a part of this, and each one of us are a part of it, to the point where all of our little truths and living in that truth becomes a collective on the entire planet. And you know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah, and she's come to me several times since then over different things, like, to tell me I'm pregnant, or to tell me this, or, just taking some different turns. And so I don't really know who this is. My language at the time was, oh, these are like angels or something. And angel just means messenger. I mean, I don't know if they're like off planet. I don't know if they're in some other dimension. I don't know if it's my future self. Like, I don't know. Like, what are your thoughts? What do you, who are these people?
You know, it's a lot of thoughts. How about that? Okay, so on one end, it's like, okay, you can look at it. Oh boy, we're about to get into it. I remember talking to one of my friends, and I was sitting there, and I was on a different level, and I was in my floaty state, and I was saying, what if our angels and all these entities that we have labels are nothing more than just our ancestors?
right?
We give them, see, so it's like we say there's ancestors, spirit guides, archangels, angels, God, guardian angels, cherubims, all that. And okay, maybe. But what if still at the core of it, they're just our ancestors? And why would that be so ludicrous to even to believe, right? Because if we are an expression of God, if God is expressing itself through all of us, right? We are God. Why would it be? It just seems like that would make sense that that will be our ancestors because they're still a part of that consciousness. I don't know if that even makes sense how I explain that. But also, I also feel like whatever impression that you get initially, go with that. And to the other side of that, does it really matter? I mean, because even when you ask, even if when you say, it has been said that, and see, the God of the Bible is, to me, in my opinion, because I think that's very important. In my opinion and observation, the God of the Bible is not creator of all. That's another entity. But when there was a point in the Bible where I don't know if this was Moses, when he went to the bush and he asked basically what this entity's name was, and it said, I am that I am. There
Yes.
was no name given.
Yes.
So just I am all things. So it's just like what it is not important, but labels make us feel comfortable, right? But another thing about labels, they limit us too because it is labels that cause so many conflict or so much conflict on this planet,
I
right?
agree.
Trying to always label and figure things out. And I'm not saying like to you, like you're good. I'm just saying in general for the general audience that's watching me. I'm just really more so talking to you guys and responding to my lovely guest here. But that is an amazing encounter that you have had. I will have to say to you, I've never had that. I've had encounters, but not that. And as you're talking to me, and I'm saying, "Oh my God!" Like these beings are coming. They've got the Akashic records in front of her,
I didn't
and
even know
they're
what that
showing
was.
her, huh?
Yes, I didn't even know what that was until someone told me like maybe a year ago. They're like, "Oh, do you think that was Akashic Records?" I'm like, what is that?" I never heard that term in my life until a year ago.
Yeah. They have the records, and that's just something that I just feel because of when you said all these books, and then it's like. I feel like the being opened it up to show you what could be, almost to like to show you without implanting it in your mind of what to do, showing you to allow you to come to your own conclusion, right? And I think that's very powerful. Um, you know, boy, you just got to be able to follow the signs. And sometimes this is going to get off into another conversation. I don't want to go get too off the beaten trail. I'm going to bring it back. But I just want to say, like, sometimes it's difficult to know, like, okay, for instance, like, I'm really good at listening to my intuition, but you ever have something that you keep getting, but you battle with it because you don't know if you're tripping about this or this is really a thing, like am I on some type of loop with this, right? Am I stuck with this? Is this some type of negativity or is this constantly hounding me because it's something, that type of thing? But that's a whole nother conversation.
Well, well, there's good and bad of that, right? So we can get in these like, and I talk about that in the thing that everything I wrote down, I ended up putting it in a book, and I made the book. It's called The Science of Miracles: Remembering the Frequency of Love. And I
Oh, that's
talk
beautiful.
about trauma loops. I talk about those negativity, but they can also be positive loops, like it, depending on what we're creating. Um, but when you get those synchronicities and it's like it's hounding you and you're like, oh, should I go do this? And it like keeps coming back and back and back. And you're like, really? Because it goes against your left brain and you're like, that doesn't make any sense. And these people might be upset. And plus that doesn't work financially or, whatever thing is that we're like going, no, no, but that one of the scriptures that I do think about on a quantum physics level is seek ye first the kingdom of God, and then all these things will be added unto you. And that kind of goes like energy goes where energy flows, or some of the, universal laws. To me, where is the kingdom? Who is the kingdom? Us and here.
Yes.
God is in our cells, like literally on a cellular level. And when we seek ye first the kingdom, that's that GPS inner voice to me, in my opinion. And when we do follow in obedience to go ahead and make that step, that's whenever other things start coming in. Like then all these things will be added. And I had this analogy like a Kleenex box. It's like you don't know what's at the bottom, but if you just take that first Kleenex, then something else pops up and you're like, oh, okay, I'll just take that one now. And then I'll just take that one now. And you don't know where it's going to lead, or sometimes you do, but sometimes you just don't. And I don't know if you've ever watched like Indiana Jones or whatever, and then that guy's like trying to walk across the cliff or whatever, and he's like, he just takes a step and then the bridge appears, and it's like
Yeah.
scary, it's scary to live by faith, or just to follow those unctions or those voices or whatever. But then there's the opposite too, where you can hear like, don't do that, like, just don't. And you're
Yeah.
like, wait, but it makes sense to do that. That's what I always do. And they're like, no, 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 really, seriously, don't do that. And it's like that nagging thing. And then there's the other kind of loops where it's like you don't even know why it's happening, but it keeps happening, and you're like, shit, I'm here again for real. Like, I don't,
Yeah.
can we just stop this? And usually that is ancestral, or it's something in the cells that are causing lower frequencies. Because you could be thinking about something positive, talking about it, feeling it, and doing all the right things, decrees, mantras, being healthy physically, all the stuff. But then it's like something's still seeping out that's radiating to magnetize that to you. And you could be PO'd about it, or you can go, okay, thank you for showing me that this is still here, and I see this as a gift. And now, like, how do we clear this so this is gone from the equation and we can get some new frequencies out here that are attracting something more positive, which, I love love. I love synchronicities. So part of the book talks about remembering, meaning that alignment, the frequency of love, because that's what's going to give you your best creations, your highest creations, to give you the best outcome and the best income, meaning money, abundance, get your bills paid. It's like weird stuff starts happening whenever you really are living true, you know, which again, my truth could be different from yours. Like maybe I can get tattoos and you can't, or just weird stuff. And it's like we get all weird and judgmental, and we're like, oh, da 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 da. And it's like, or maybe someone is in a religion and that's true to them. It's like, hey, I celebrate you. You do that. It served a purpose for me for a while. It kept me safe and did some things and made some choices, met some people. I used to grieve and be like, man, I lost all that time. And now it's like, you know what? It's all good. Like everything's for something. And, you know, does that make sense? But
Oh,
willpower,
yeah.
you talked about willpower, and that's a good one too, of like just choosing anyway, and overriding whatever programming or whatever else someone thinks, or, you know, willpower is stronger than spirit. Actually, we can override even what God in here is, which doesn't serve us, but there's some consequences and or lessons when we mess up like that.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I love how you brought up about, because I believe the same thing. How we're not all. I don't want to say a simplistic term will be say held to the same standard. That's the sentiment, but I don't want to necessarily say that we are not all convicted by the same things. And so if you're very religious and religion is your beliefs, like your Pentecostal, apostolic, Church of God in Christ, all of these very rigid belief systems, and then you're looking at someone else, why they got tattoos, and why are they wearing red lipstick, and why are they going to the club, and why it doesn't make any sense because that's your belief. So you're beheld to that belief because by your God power, I mean, if that's what you believe, that's what you will be subjected to. Your power is powerful, right? So you can't be looking over in somebody else's backyard trying to judge what they have going on because that's what they have going on, even with these agents of chaos, right? And I always say it's not my job to worry about what the agents of chaos. I mean, there's different type of chaos, right? We have the chaos that brings order, and we have the what we would more call so on the demonic side, right? But the way I see it and understand it to be, there's characters in this game. Somebody has to play them, and somebody has to play that side, right? So my thing is not necessarily to judge them, right? Is to be aware of what that is and stay out the way of that, right? My job is to be aware. I don't want no parts of that what y'all got going on over there, you know. So, and I feel like everything doesn't have to be judged. Everything doesn't have to be ridiculed. I believe we should approach things in love first and awareness, right? And I know some people judgment and awareness might be like a thin line, but it's like a quick judgment. Okay, that person, they like to decapitate people. Okay, that's very graphic, but I'm just using something very ridiculous to illustrate the sentiment. They decapitate people, so I'm not going to mess with that individual. I mean, that's their role. That's what they came in here to do. Whatever. But I'm gonna be over here, and I just really, as much as you might say, well, it's not that simple. It kind of is though. Like even when you watch some of these documentaries, with I just got done, and I'm gonna talk about this tonight on YouTube. The Gacy, John Wayne Gacy situation. A lot of these things, people, monsters don't just come out and just attack you. Not, I mean, those are rare cases, right? It can happen. You can get maybe jumped in the alley or something like that, but a lot of times we allow these type of energies and entities into our lives by not being aware. And when I look at stuff like that, and I'd be like, I can say it's very disgusting, it's diabolical, it's heinous. But at the same time, that's what they came in here to do. And I'm glad that I didn't have to run into that. And even the people, even the victims, unfortunately, they came in to be a part of that. And what can we learn from that? Awareness, tap into that intuition. If something's screaming on the inside, something's wrong with it. It don't even have to be big. It just be like, I can't put my finger, keep it moving. Right. If you don't know, you know to keep it moving. That's it. If you can't put your finger on it, that's enough. And sometimes we think everything has to be so overt, you know. But I'm sorry, I just got on. I don't even know how I got on the beaten trail because I usually try to stay away from doing that with my guests. I try to let you guys completely talk. So let's get back to you.
No, no, no. I love this. I like it. I like the exchange. So feel free to jump in every time. I'm learning from you too. Like we're all just having a good conversation.
Yeah, yeah, but you know, I know me. Like I can listen to people and be like, "What they let the guests talk? They just talking and talking and talking."
Well, I think what you're saying too can be felt like, okay, so not to be graphic again. I know you brought it up. So like people who get like essayed.
Yes,
So when that happens, there is an impartation and it stays in the field. Because if you think about it and you hear about that's people who've had that happen, it doesn't usually just happen once and it's like, oh, never again. Like people can go in different states, different countries, and like, how is it that that person still has that happen in different ways? And all, it's like usually it's not just a one and done. And so I started even looking at that. Again, it's a frequency. And if that is not clear, it will, because that'll go in the radiation and it will magnetize back. Same thing with just even if there is an essay, maybe it's just an abusive man or woman or a narcissist or something. It's like if that is not cleared and you somehow made an agreement to it in some way. There's a frequency to that, and that it'll keep coming, cancel clear until you have a different vibe that radiates, and until you are aware enough to make new choices and use your willpower to override that. And so, again, fear is bad, but also fear can be good because if you have fear about, like you said, that person that you're like, I can't put my finger on it, it's like that's usually some kind of weird feeling you get in your gut. Like you actually feel it in your body, most people.
Mhm.
And you always hear like the people who did get whatever abuse or whatever, when they're talking and explaining, they'll say like, I knew I shouldn't have opened that door. I just had that feeling or whatever. And it's like, going ahead and being okay, no matter what it looks like, not showing up at that date or not picking up the phone or not answering the door, just because there's some wisdom there in that inner voice and following that God positioning system or the GPS within. And I have not followed and gotten myself in trouble, and I have followed and gotten really good, results. So I've been on both sides of that too. And it's, even with the little things in practice of paying attention to that little voice, it's I'm getting better at going ahead no matter what and just following whatever's there because I know over time now when I haven't paid attention to that and it's like got me in trouble, maybe financially or, you know, staying with that man too long or, whatever the situation is like, dude, why didn't I just like run, or why did I marry that dude? Honestly, twice when it was like the night before, I was like, just this is bad. I feel it in my stomach. I don't want to do this. I did it anyway because I was worried what people would think and everyone was going to show up to the wedding. Or, I mean, that's an extreme choice. But I'm just saying we all have little ones and big ones, where to live, who to be with, what job to take, all the way down to the little stuff of do I go to this grocery store today or should I go tomorrow? Or maybe I go to a different one I normally don't go to because you do that and you follow and then you meet someone different and you're just like, ah, wow, if I hadn't followed that, I wouldn't have met this dude on the street and now we're doing this and now he knows this one or someone I ran into that I haven't seen in years or whatever. But again, it's living true moment to moment to moment to moment. And I'm like
Yes.
even weird about like what I wear. Like like right before I was seeing you today, I like last minute was like, I gotta go get my nails done. I'm going out of town tomorrow and I was going to get them the same color. I got this. And like we match. I've done that so many times on podcasts where I'll go change clothes and I put on something that was like I've never even wore before or whatever. 2 weeks ago I did one that had NOLA on it. I never wear anything that has New Orleans. I've never bought a shirt that says Louisiana on it in my life. I bought it a year ago. It was still sitting in my on my hanger with the tag on. I put it on. I was being interviewed by a lady from Chicago. She gets on there. She's like, "Oh, I'm from New Orleans." And I'm like, "Dude, I never wore this in my life." Like I literally showed her the tag. I haven't even taken the tag off yet. But it's just like those little things that to me, we're like connected now. Like I'm gonna be your friend. Like I don't there's you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this is another synchronicity of like just following the invitation and then following all the little stuff and then me hearing your story and stuff. And I'm like, dude, I might come to Michigan or you might come down here and who knows how this works out?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. You staying in New Orleans is powerful. I got a couple questions when it comes to that. One, are have you ever dealt with this? Like, I've heard stories where there has been places and down there where they'll be there and then they'll go the next day and they're gone, like disappearing. Places like a bunch of interesting um things that go on down there.
In New
Have you
Orleans?
experienced that? Yeah. Have you
Oh, New
experienced
Orleans
that?
is crazy for sure. It's different. It's for sure different. And for a while I couldn't go because I didn't like the way I felt.
Mm.
Um, I felt a lot of fear
Okay.
and also like just I mean there is a lot of crime in certain parts and stuff on the news or whatever. I'm about an hour away but then there's times where I'm like, no, I need to go down there. And like I met up with this lady who's down in Jackson Square, and she had her little table set up, and I was like, I don't know, I'm supposed to go see her or whatever. And I never do like readings online because people can Google me and they read everything, and I don't believe, maybe they won't, but it doesn't give me the faith to have someone who could read everything about me online and then just say, "Oh, yeah, you're a naturopath and you have 5 kids and you're from Montana." It's like, yeah, you read that. Um, but I show up down there and see this chick. She didn't even ask me my name, and she starts reading my mail. I mean, she's telling me everything. She's telling me like, "Oh, you're in the middle of this job thing and something to do with frequency and some kind of device, and but there's some conflict." I was like, "Oh my God," So there's time. I mean, I was just down there, I guess like 2 weeks ago or whatever, but I hadn't heard anything about people disappearing. You're saying like people disappearing or things
Like
disappearing?
it might be like let's say it's some kind of like bar or something, and it's there and then it disappears. Like almost like it comes from a different
Dimension?
realm or so. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah, it's a
has
lot
me.
that goes on down there. I don't know. I've been down there one time in 2008. We stayed off of we stayed in a hotel right off. I'm trying to think of the street. What is the street? Bourbon Street.
Oh
We
yeah, yeah,
stayed in the
yeah.
hotel right off Bourbon Street. Um, I love the food down there. It's a good time. I think some people tried to abduct us, but
Seriously, I'm not kidding. Yeah, you have to be aware for sure.
you
There's
have to be
not,
aware.
yes.
Yeah, and I'm really grateful for. Again, it's just one of those things. Like I'm in there. It was me, my husband, and my friend, my girlfriend, and I'm in there. And it wasn't something I've had instances where the internal voice or spirit is screaming and my body is vibrating. In that instance, I didn't, but I knew something was off. Like they tried to give me some alcohol. Next thing I know, it was spilling. And it was just, different stuff. We ended up walking up out of there. But you just it's just the energy you feel. It's like something's not right. This is weird. You have to get on and get away. But I would definitely go back, but I just know that I would have to be aware. And I know I have a very strong spiritual team, but I'm gonna tell you, I'm not one of those people that like to put that to test either.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think there's actually what I call environmental vibrations. And I started working with this girl who's tested different cities and done different things. And I think there's something to our vibe and where we live. Like that brings a better outcome with who we are or what we need, or maybe you need to live by the water or the mountains, or maybe you do better in the city or in the country, and there's certain vibratory frequencies to places. And for me, I've been told, hey, go over there, and I don't mean to move necessarily, but like if I'm in a funk and I can't get like the answers that I'm needing, sometimes I've been told, hey, go over there for the weekend. And it's a whole different swirl of energies and frequencies that changes my field up. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, now I know. And it's like I know stuff and more because I was obedient to go wherever. And it wasn't even like a person I met or anything. It's just like the ground, like the vibe of where I go. Like this weekend, tomorrow I'm leaving, and I was supposed to be in St. Pete's, Florida tomorrow, and some things got switched up, and now I'm going to West Palm tomorrow and then going back to St. Pete's. And I'm like, I'm not even 100% sure what is up with any of these things, but I know I'm going to take something back that's going to help me with where I am now to figure out and probably meet people and being open to being aware of like, well, who am I going to meet, and expecting like some sort of exchange, a transfer in the field of like that's going to help me to know whatever for 2025 or what we're doing in starting January kind of deal. But Michigan's got their vibe. Every city's got a vibe, and and it'll be different for you than me because my vibe's different than yours. But then certain people can be like called to an area and they all kind of have that same vibe and they're all just like, how did we all get here? And here we are
Yeah.
right now in this season. And it may not be forever, but it's for a minute or not. And you know what I mean? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I totally agree. I mean, I'm here in Michigan and I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I feel like I feel like that if I was more in a area that was have like by water, more like a Caribbean warm area, I would thrive better. That's a feeling. The thing is that I have a family, and so I can't just up and go. I mean, I could, but am I really going to do that? You could do a lot of things,
That's
right?
just me. My parents are here, and it's like I don't like I value being with them as long as I can, and I can't imagine life without being with them. You know what I mean? But also, I'm like feel super called to be somewhere else, so I just bounce a lot. I like bounce and come back and bounce and come. I'm just like that's my way to kind of not feel like I'm suffocating. But where would you go? Do you know?
Well, I want to visit Costa Rica. I want to check that out.
Shoot, it's on my list. That's one of the top. That's my
Yeah,
top.
I definitely want to check that out. You know, I will say now, I definitely read people and stuff like that. But I think people don't understand that when it comes to even being tapped in, turned on, it's easy to read other people, right? Because you're not attached to it. Sometimes it's hard when it comes to yourself, right? And that's why we still use one another as spiritualists, because for one, I think for the basic principle, there's no way you should be able to be down here and be the one all be all for yourself because you wouldn't fellowship, you wouldn't, I mean, what would be the point, right? So we have to have some incentive to engage with one another. And I think it's important that people know that. But I will honestly say, being transparent, I realize one of my battles is I understand that we're supposed okay, so it's layer, right? So we've got this programming to do, right? You got to do. But and then we're being introduced to like allowing flow, right? Okay. But how is anything going to flow if I don't do? And like, okay, like this Michigan thing, I want to get up out of here, right? Part of me is like, well, if you don't make the move to get out, you won't get out. But the other part is like, but the only way that I would do that, I would have to leave my family behind, and I can't do that. And then the other part is like, well, we see people's lives all the time. When things come to an end, it comes to an end. Like, but then you're like, am I gonna miss the boat? You know what I mean? So it's just so many. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, trying to navigate that, right?
Yes. Yes. And
Having
I'm
these desires.
totally with you on the whole, like, not just the family thing, but I've said, I even talk about this in the book about like, we can't be the only one, and how sometimes, like, I don't even muscle test myself because my willpower will make the pendulum or my body do whatever I want instead of what that intuition is doing. And so I'll say, can you muscle test me? Or can you, whatever, I'll pull a card or something because it's like, dude, I don't trust. I mean, I do trust, but also sometimes having like an outside, unattached
Yeah.
person say, maybe their 2 cents or whatever. And, so there is a balance too with that of like not leaning completely on what everybody says I'm supposed to do, but listen. And also it's okay to have a couple people that really love you, that you can bounce stuff off with them and be like, okay, and or just, muscle test or do something, or going to see someone that doesn't know you at all and being like, hey, what do you think? But one of the things that was told to me early on is that you will never, like, and this is for me, this is what I was told, is because I was seeking like astrology and whatever, just to be like, what do I do? What do I do? Making sure that I do everything right. I'm a Virgo and I'm like, I gotta have a plan. I gotta, you know what I mean? Like that's just, so I like steps. I want to know, I need to know hardcore, for sure. And yeah, are you a Virgo?
I'm a Leo,
Oh,
but I
Leo,
feel the
there
same
you
way.
go. See, yeah. So it's like I got, I got to have structure and things like that. So, but there's another part where you're like, what you said is more like go with the flow and being okay if, because like tomorrow, again, I was supposed to be in St. Pete's and that got changed, not because of me. And I got all in a hissy. I was like, wait, no, that's what we're doing, blah, blah, blah. But the other part of me is like, would you just relax, like calm down because the universe has your back, it's cool. Like, and so, but I'm like, but we had all this da da da, it's like, shut up, just go with it. And I started to make my hotel and everything. And I was like, you know what? I'm not even gonna make my hotel. I'm just gonna get there and figure it out. And then this morning, someone called and was like, hey, we're going to West Palm, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, well, there you go. Because that's what I'm supposed to be doing now. I'm going to go to West Palm instead. And maybe that's the breadcrumb that you were, and so there's that battle for me too of just like the left brain, right brain, whatever you want to call it, or just, the go with the flow versus having the action of the structure, I don't know, but that is probably one of my biggest struggles. And I choose to make it fun and easy every day. And I try to make that the thing. But you're right, you can't just like sit around and meditate and wish and be like, oh, all these things are gonna abracadabra because I'm sitting here meditating for 24 days. Like you do have to do stuff too,
Right.
there you got to step out and actually do the 3D stuff.
Yeah. And to that point, I want to say this without getting too detailed because I'm real big, not because I'm talking to you, but because people are watching. So I'm really big about holding things close to the chest before, they you don't want to put all your stuff out what you're about to do and all that stuff because of energy purposes. That's my belief. I mean, people believe different things. You got people that tell everything they do. I don't agree with that, but it might work for them. I have this thing that I'm trying to do with somebody else, and it was going to different venues and getting this like, what's going on? Following up. They're not getting back. The first one I was like, okay, we're not gonna be able to hold it here. We'll go to this hotel or whatever. And then they're playing around. We talking about calling. I'm going up there 2 3 times, being on the phone 2 3 times. Um, and so the other place called, but then I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna take them because of even the way that whole thing happened. I was feeling funny about it, so I'll just wait. So I asked the girl I'm doing it with because she's a reader too. She's a reader and medium too. So I told her do a reading on it, and basically she got kind of what I was picking up on. It's like other stuff going on that's causing blockages. It's stuff with them, right? Their apprehensions about things that they've gotten burned on from people having events and stuff like that. And just it's gonna work out, but at some point, but it's about divine timing, basically, right? And in as much as I can receive that, it's like, well, you got other people that just go and do what they want to do. So like, it's like, why is it that when I have something that I want to do, and this is not isolated to this incident. I feel like this has been, and of course, I'm life path 2, master 11. So I have a slower path anyway, right? But it's very aggravating because I'm always getting all these visions and all of this stuff. And then I go and act on it. And it's like, okay, it's not time. Well, let me know when it's time. Because if you give it to me, I'm going to go act on it. You know what I mean? So I find that frustrating sometimes. And I wanted to voice that because I know there's somebody else out there that can relate. I'm not the only one.
Yeah, it is like agreements are big for me. So I, and there's an energy to it. If someone says I'm going to be there, they got to be there or they're going to have consequences on a physiological level. Like that's one of the things that I saw in the field and in the body that happens when we lie, like when we live a lie.
Mm.
Like even saying I'll be there at 5 or I'll be there, whatever. It's like if it's 5:01 and you're not even trying, you have like 1,300 chemicals that release out of your brain into your body and they saturate your cells, your immunity, not you, a person's immunity will be suppressed. Their hair gets gray, they get dehydrated really easy. Things just start happening on a consequence to living a lie versus when we live true and keep those agreements. There's like 1,500 chemicals that saturate the body that cause our immunity to be alive and cause us to be, excited and have a bunch of energy and puts ATP in our cells, and mitochondria wakes up, and you know, um, you look vibrant and your skin looks good. And, even if you ate bad a little bit, you detox better. And it's just living true has a lot of physical benefits too. That's why when you look at someone and they like, you could obviously tell they're not living their truth. It's like, oh, you look, yeah, you got it. You need some help. And then other people, you're like, oh, you're like that old man. You look way younger. And, so there's everything matters, like literally everything we do matters, from the littlest things again to the biggest things. So even what color nail polish you wear, or putting on a shirt that has a label that may be like saying something bad, that you're wearing that now and consciously wearing that color or those clothes. Or I mean, people probably think I'm nuts, but I'm telling you, like, even words have frequency, thoughts have frequency, colors have frequency, people have frequency, everything is that mix match. And I think with what you were talking about with the vendor, sometimes there is like all this static or whatever from what their field is going through and what they're processing or whatever. Because I'm having the same thing right now. Like, it's not a coincidence that me and you are both talking about the same thing for tomorrow. I had somebody I was meeting up with, whatever, and they started doing their own thing, and I'm like, dude, that's not the plan. That's not the agreement. And I started to get all whatever, and I can't control what other people do. And it's like, you know what, you want to do whatever. I'm just, that's fine. And I could get all crazy and be like, whatever. I probably am not going to be best friends with this person. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because agreements are big, and you should not have to have a lawyer and a contract and all these threats if you don't follow. To me, my word is everything. Like if I say,
Yeah.
be there, and I know sometimes things happen where it's like, oh, there was a wreck or bad traffic. Well, guess what? You pick up the phone and you say, hey, I know I said 5 o'clock, but I'm running a few minutes late. I'm so sorry. Or if this does not work for you, can we reschedule and recommit to a different time because I'm running 10 minutes late or whatever? And that will keep your energy clear because you're communicating, you're explaining, but just to be absolutely like not caring about other people's time, or to me that's pride and ego, and basically saying you don't matter, only I matter. I can do whatever. You don't have, like when agreements go out the window, that is a big red flag for me, not
Yeah.
just physically but energetically. It's like, that's a mismatch. And that's where I'm aware of, like, hey, you know what, I will love you from over here,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna be over here. Not all the way to like what you're talking about, the dude in New Orleans or whatever. I know there's some extremes, but even those kind of things, I'm just like, I still love you and I'm not judging you, but also I'm gonna be with people that I can actually trust and I feel secure with and that I can partner with. Because partnership is huge. And especially if it's like business or anything, big, like your relationships, it's big. But does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense for sure, for sure. You, I was doing a podcast with someone, and they had been wanting to do before I started all of this and got on to this trail that I didn't see coming. I would just do regular commentary, podcast, stuff like that. And so I had started that way back in 2016. And so I want to say about 2017, um, a guy I went to school with, he wanted to do, we could do a show and whatever, whatever. He was taking years and years, years later, last year, he wants to do it. And so now I'm on to a different hookup. I said, no, I'm not trying to do that, whatever. But he kept asking, asking, and asking me, so I went on ahead and did it. It was some resistance going on even when I got there day one. But an incident had happened that just I didn't like. And I just felt like, okay, this is not going to work. And I didn't get upset in as much as I'm like, that's not necessarily cool. I didn't take it personal for that person. I just took it as this is just another thing to show you why you don't need to be doing this. And I explained to him, I said, I don't think that I should be on this show primarily because alignment is important. And if you have someone, you're feeling very positive and optimistic about this thing, but you've got me over here that I'm like, I'm not really feeling this, but I'm just doing it just because that's working against what you have going on. And we're not in alignment. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's very important. It's very important. And I just have a lot of people take things personal. I know people personally that take everything personal. And so unless it's real crazy, I'm not necessarily going to take it personal. I'm going to really look at what's the message being sent here, right? Cuz I mean it's just really no reason to get all flustered and in a flux about everything, right? A lot of stuff is just storylines for you to get the message and move on. Another tool in your toolbox.
How do you
Don't
do that though? Because I could say that and I could tell people that, but sometimes when it's happening, I'm just like, I try to, that other part of me is like, calm down, it's cool, don't take it personal, do your thing. And then the other part of me is like, man, or whatever, or even being like, do they not even like me? Or, just that kind of stuff too, that plays into some of those like traumas from the past or weird
yeah.
stuff. And I don't know if you watch, I love like human behavior, right? So I love watching like The Bachelor, which I'm sure it's probably scripted, but I watch like 90 Day Fiance and all that stuff. And not because whatever, but it probably is all fake. But I like watching the behavior, body language, what people say. I like to try to predict who's going to win. And it's funny how like I'm watching one show now and there's like two people there and they're both like doing their thing and they keep having all these problems and they're like missing each other on things. Like one guy thinks, oh well, she's just using me for my money and trying to get a green card or whatever, and she's like not thinking that at all, but he's had that happen before, so that's the way he sees it because he's had it happen 4 times, and you only see the way you experience things. And she's just
Yeah.
like, that's the last thing on her mind. And she's just being all pure and nice and whatever. But they keep running into that because of his old traumas. And I think a lot of us are having that, where we all have our little package of traumas and programs and beliefs. And we're all just walking around in this field and we're bumping into people. And some of it works and some of it's, shaky. And some, it's like, you know, he ended up breaking up with this girl and she's like crying and upset. And then they have those other shows where the people are watching them. You know what I mean? I know it gets crazy, but there's like uh they call it pillow talk or whatever, where the other past people are watching the current show. And I always like to watch that to see like, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Because I'm seeing
Yeah.
it like this. But when you're in it, when they're in it, they're not seeing it, and it's like, oh, how can I get to where I'm seeing it, but not attached to the end and not feeling it on a personal, what do you do for that?
If it's not something crazy, I mean, obviously, if somebody's like, I'm somewhere and they're punching me in the face, or they're doing something crazy. If it's crazy like that, like you attack me, you jump me, or something like, no, oh, baby, I'm gonna take it personal. And not only am I not gonna take it personal, I'm gonna get back. But when I get back to you, you're gonna wish you've never even uttered my name.
Funny.
I don't play that type of shit. Excuse me.
Leo, oh my God.
Yes. So it's not nothing we're gonna talk about. I'm not gonna keep you. I'm gonna get you. I'm not gonna say nothing. Matter of fact, I might even laugh. Cause when I get you, you won't see it coming, and it's going to be the biggest nightmare you could have never even dreamt of. But it's got to be something crazy like that. But I won't say that I don't go through things and might not just ruminate over a little bit, but I'm pretty easy to forgive things and let go. It's more so like I go into the analyzation of who this person is, right? So let's say this person does something messy. Then I have to analyze, well, they're messy and they do this because they like attention, they need validation, blah, 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 and I know where to keep them, right? I still love them, but I know where to put you, right? And so then I'm not going to hold this big grudge because I just know where to put you,
Yeah, I
right?
can't fake it though. I'm so bad at faking it.
I
Like,
can't either. That's why I just I put you where you're going to be put.
yeah,
You know?
if I'm around someone that just did something, I still love them and I do
Yeah.
my best not to judge, but I'm not going to pretend like we're cool either. Like
Oh
I
no, I'm
just,
not either.
you know what I mean?
I'm
It's
not
like
even
they're
come
gonna, and
here.
I'm not
No.
vengeant. Like I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm going to get you back so hard. I love that you said that though. It's hilarious.
I am.
But I am the person that if you say you're not going to do that, and I already knew that I'm supposed to. I'm like, I'm going to do it 20 times before Sunday now that you said that because it's like we're on. Because there's some people who will give you confirmation by reflecting or mirroring back what that inside is in your field that you knew you were supposed to do anyway. And then there's
Mhm.
some people who come to do the opposite and say, you're never going to do that. What the hell are you talking about? And it's like,
Right.
oh, what? Did you just say I'm not? Because now I am. Like I wasn't
Right.
even 5 minutes ago, but I'm doing it now, bro. What's up?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And and two, I do want to clarify about the get back. The get back is not on everything, right? So
Okay,
I'm not going
okay.
to be petty, but if it's crazy, I've got to get it back. Like I can't no. I mean, I'm not going to waste my time. If you told some of my business, which I'm not. So also another thing to this, another component is I'm going to be very careful of how I share information and how I interact with people because I'm not going to give you a lot of stuff to burn me with anyway, right? To minimize my potential of having to go through these things. So it's a lot about how you move. And I'm not saying you specifically, I'm just saying in general, you know, how you move and stuff like that. But
Well,
yeah, it's got to be something real crazy.
there's something biblical to that too, right? Because, Mary was pregnant with Jesus, if that's even real, but I'm just saying. And it said in scriptures, the ancient scriptures say that she kept it in her heart that she was pregnant by God, whatever. I mean, it could just be frequency or it could be off planet, who knows? But or it could just be for real God, I don't know. But Joseph said he didn't do it. So she kept it in her heart so she wouldn't have all that drama of people being, what? You think God, it's like she was like, no, we're not even going to talk about it. Like, I don't need any more drama. Let's just keep it on the DL because I got to do my thing and I don't want any more resistance than what's already here. Like even talking about the thing that happened to me with those two angels. I don't go around just talking to people about that because people be like, what is she talking about? It's like, there's certain people that I share and some people, that don't. Otherwise they might be like, she is, and it's like, I don't need people hating on me extra or, thinking I'm crazy. I got enough stuff going on without like that. So I'm with you on that. It's like some people you tell stuff, some people not so much, and make your steps be known as needed on a need to know basis kind of deal because like why? But also too because sometimes I don't even know and I'm like still trying to figure it out and I'm like, like that call that came to me today to go, I didn't know what I was doing tomorrow. And then I got two people who don't even know each other that both said something about going to this other city. And I'm like, okay, it's very obvious. That's what I'm doing now. Instead of this thing door shut, these two doors open, it's the same place. That's what we're doing, and being loose with the outcome again. And what's crazy is when that happened, I got so much energy. I almost like screamed. I was literally in the nail thing, got the phone call, got the text, two different people within an hour. I was like, this is what we're doing. Yay. And I got so excited because I was like, that's it. This is the thing, and you got to pay attention to how you feel too, because a lot of times that means this is a go. And then other times you just get that, I don't want to do it. And you just feel gross and terrible and like I can't. And then it's usually like, probably you shouldn't, you know?
Oh yeah. Oh for sure. Oh for sure. I know we're going past that hour
I know.
mark.
I'm
So
sorry. I could talk all day with you. You're fun.
no, no, no. I'm really being cognizant of the time because of you really to respect your time. So I know and then to shoot, I don't have no problem going forever, but also for potential of future interviews, leave some because I've got other questions. I do. I have other things that I want to get into. But that would take probably a whole nother hour. So
Let's do it. I want to have you on my show too. Like we'll have to,
okay.
whatever you want. Let's do it. This is fun for me.
Okay, yeah, whenever. Whenever. I'm good. I'm really good in the evening time. Weekends I'm flexible because I mean there's not school, there's not work going on and stuff like that. So yeah.
We'll set
But
something up
yeah,
for sure. Awesome.
for
I love
sure,
that.
for sure. Yeah, this is awesome. But hmm. Well, at any rate, I'm gonna let you say what you have going on as far as all your books, your social media. Tell us where we can find you, where we can buy your things and support you, and all of that good stuff.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Well, drsharnael.com. If you go there, Dr. Sharnael, it's SHARNAEL, like Israel.com. That has like literally you could go to my podcast is there. I do a live every Thursday at noon. We talk about all this kind of stuff, spiritual energies, everything, all the paranormal. We talk about health because that's a big piece, honestly, is when we're healthy, we hear better, we do better. But I have all kinds of biofeedback and services that you could do online. You can come see me in person if you ever want to get out of Michigan or wherever you guys are out there watching. I do conferences. I'm going to actually be in LA in February for Conscious Life Expo. That's going to be fun. Yeah, my books are there. On my social media is drsharnael.com, but I hope to see some of y'all around, or maybe y'all want to connect and get biofeedback or get a coaching call or whatever. I love conscious language and listening and watching body language and figuring out where the snags are to help people get into their next level and like leveling up a bit and maybe getting some of those cleared frequencies out so they get a better outcome and a better income. Like I said, money is a thing too, make things happen. But yeah, y'all hit me up, drsharnael.com, and I can't wait to see you again and us to connect. I think I'm going to see you in real life. I really feel like I'm going to meet you in real life somehow.
That would be great. I thank everybody for watching, for tuning in to Candid Story of My Soul podcast. Please make sure that you subscribe to my Patreon above anything. My Patreon holds all of the stuff that you're going to need. My website, too, Rocky Road TV, RACQI, roadtv.com. All of her information and my information will be below this video. So if you missed it, just look in the info part of the video and it will be there. Truth and Justice Tarot is something that I do and is available on my Patreon. You can access it as a member. Don't worry, it's free. But I do have some things that will be paid. I've got courses teaching you tarot. I have resources for for content creators. Also, I'm having this podcast come out. I am Racquel No Chaser podcast in January. So it's crazy. I talk about anything and everything in regards to my life and what's going on. I did put one episode up. It's actually available now. Even though it's dropping in January, I decided to make this a part of the podcast. It is free, but you still have to sign up to the Patreon for free. And it's about this dream that I had. It was super crazy. It's super dope though. So you want to get into that, okay? But again, thank you guys so much for tapping in with us. And we are going to see you next time. Toodles!
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.